What makes the achievement of emotional sobriety so difficult is the habits we have, the patterns we have in our behavior, the habitual ways that we've come to think about things. We have to really become aware of those things in order to challenge them, because the consciousness that has created a lot of the problems in our life cannot solve it, cannot change things. So what happens is the first step is waking up.
I'm not going to say much tonight because I really do want to turn the meeting over to Herb. Bill Wilson did note that when you take prayer and meditation and you integrate the two of those together, that what happens is it becomes synergistic. The results, you do rocket us into another dimension. And, you know, my dear friend Herb, has, talked so much about this and has so much great insight. So who better to lead us in a meditation tonight and talk a little bit about the value of meditation. So Herb, without any further ado, I'll turn the meeting over to you.
My name is Herb, and I'm an alcoholic. Thank you very much for inviting me to share an experience together with meditation. We're going to take a few minutes, maybe 15, maybe 20, but not much more than that. I wanted to remind you a little bit about at least my thoughts of and what the step 11 suggests is the approach to this, what I call a consciousness practice. This is a truncated, shortened version of step 11, sought through prayer and meditation. Let's see, that's supposed to be, anyway, well, to improve my conscious contact with God. You notice the God word there. It's a placeholder. Bill is very clear. He doesn't want it to have religious connotation. He wants it to be a word that you can relate to. He's very clear throughout chapter 4 and other places in the book that you get to choose. The big book doesn't, the 12-step culture doesn't, Bill Wilson doesn't, your sponsor doesn't. You get to choose. What does it mean, this power other than ourselves? As we understood it. It might have been better had they said, as we don't understand it. Our minds are finite, and whatever this placeholder word is, it is meant to represent a reality with a capital R. Infinite, by definition. Impossible for us, finite. You cannot put the ocean in a bucket. The ocean's too large. My bucket's too small. What is this organismic life force that pushes an acorn to break open and form the oak tree? That organismic life force that obviously occupies our body. In 20 years, I'll be dead, but I won't look any different the day after I die. What changes? That life spirit leaves me, anima. The Latin word for soul, the Latin word for life, anima, animate, animation. Step 11 continues, praying for knowledge of reality. The two things that make us specifically human is that we have a mind that thinks, that knows, and that we have a free will that makes decisions to take actions. These are the components of step 11. Praying for the knowledge, asking for the knowledge. Praying is a fancy term. All it means is I'm asking. I did not know that until I was 4 years sober, and the man who taken me through the steps said, prayer is talking to God, asking. You get to choose where and what that means and how it works. God, please direct my thinking. That's how he starts upon awakening. In the big book, pages 85 to 88, 2.5 pages that have become more important to me than any other book I've ever read on meditation or spirituality. Those 2.5 pages absolutely broke it open for me. Despite 7 years in a monastery as a monk, 7 years of silence, with all the teaching and the reading and the practice that I did, these 2.5 pages are more important because it says we ask God to direct our thinking. This man said, it's a short prayer, Herb. God, please direct my thinking. Now, whatever it means to you, higher self, the best in me, spirit, life force, organismic life force, asking for guidance and alignment. I have free will, and I have responsibility to use it, to perceive what reality is and to align myself with the principles as I perceive them, and to course correct when in fact I got it wrong. I make mistakes, but the mistakes don't name me. I course correct. The role of emotional sobriety, the role of step 10, 11, and 12, identifying the principles, being conscious of the principles, and course correcting when, in fact, I find I'm disturbed. Prayer and intimate conversation, meditation, listening attentively, listening to my own thinking as the possible medium of the message. God doesn't speak to me ever verbally through my ears. Whatever this organismic life force is, it speaks to me regularly through the channel of my heart, through the channel of my gut, through the channel of my senses and my sensations, my imagination and my memory. I receive guidance. So let's have a 5-minute meditation of quiet reflection. I'm going to use more than 5 minutes to warm us up to that 5 minutes. During that 5 minutes, I want you to reflect in active use of your mind. Please, this is not about silence. This is not about a quiet mind. This is not about emptiness. That's a practice for a different day called contemplation. We're here to do meditation. Look it up in a dictionary. If you doubt my words, look it up in a dictionary. Meditation, the use of my mind to think, directed thinking, the use of my mind to reflect, to look at information and come to some conclusion. Ask yourself, what did he say? Ask yourself, what does it mean? Ask yourself, how does it apply to me? My most favorite question, and if it's the only one that you hear and want to resonate in your soul, this question, what's the invitation? What's the invitation? I'm hearing some words. I'm going to read from the big book, The Promises of Step 3. Maybe I'll get to Step 5. On page 63, those promises. But first, be comfortable. It's important to be comfortable, not to be distracted by discomfort. If you're in a chair, sit quietly in the chair with your feet on the ground and your hands in your lap. probably close your eyes. It's probably better so that you can focus. There is no rules about this. If you want to keep your eyes wide open or half shut, it doesn't make any difference. Have your back straight. Every teacher I've ever come across from whatever tradition has talked about keeping the back not rigid, but comfortably straight so that there's a flow in us of that life force from all the way at the base of our spine to the top of our cranium, a flow of that energy. Whatever you call it, it doesn't matter. It's about flow of that energy. Then relax your shoulders and breathe, and relax your belly and breathe, and allow your belly to breathe in and out. Breathe in the spirit and breathe out the self. Breathe in the light and breathe out the darkness, quietly, gently, smoothly, softly. Pay attention to your thinking. What are you thinking? When I'm going to now read these promises, what do they mean? How do they apply to my life? Have I experienced these things? And most of all, perhaps, what's the invitation from what the thoughts that I'm having? I'm transcending myself. I'm transcending my thoughts. And I'm watching them flow, asking questions about those thoughts as a transmitter of perhaps a message from the Spirit. When we sincerely make a decision to have a relationship with this power, with this life force, we have a connection to power. This power provides what we need. When we keep close to the power, and follow our destiny. Established in this relationship, we become less and less interested in ourselves. More and more, we become interested in seeing what we can contribute to life. Hear the flow. Hear the dimmer switch going up a notch at a time. Hear the dimmer switch allowing more energy into the current, into the lifeline, into the life force. As we feel this power flow in, as we enjoy peace of mind, as we discover we can face life successfully, we become conscious of power and its presence. We become conscious of our constant contact. We improve our conscious contact. There is a flow to constant consciousness. We begin to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, or the hereafter. We are reborn. We feel we are on the broad highway, walking hand in hand with the spirit of the universe. There's a 3-minute meditation. When I'm talking to somebody who is motivated to meditate and they don't have a practice, I suggest 1 minute, and I suggest they use a timer. The timer tells you when you're done, so you don't have to worry about it. Most teachers talk about building it to a 20-minute minimum. That it took me about 3 months to build my practice to 20 minutes. I used the timer so I wasn't distracted by the clock. I don't use a timer now because I retired and my time is more my own. But it's a practice. My own spiritual director says, all people on a spiritual path have a spiritual practice. And they practice their practice. And they're faithful to their practice. And when they're faithful to their practice is faithful to them. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Herb. I want to check your watch. Are you sure that was 3 minutes? No, I'm teasing. I'm teasing
sure.
you. My internal experience of that was like it was a lifetime. I mean, it's amazing how when you go into that space,
Yes.
it almost feels atemporal.
But
there's another space that you enter.
And that's what happens when, in fact, you do begin to have a practice of meditation, that you do lose track of time. Sometimes it seems forever. Sometimes it seems very short.
Right.
But I didn't know. Maybe I made a mistake. So.
Oh no, I was just kidding you. I was just saying that's the experience I have a lot with that, and it's really powerful because I love how you tied together something. Is that it creates a space. It's remember when we went to the workshops with Father Richard Rohr?
Yeah.
We wanted to create a liminal space.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that just for a minute. That liminal space was a space where we are suspending business as usual. And we're entering into a state of mind that's saying we're going to do things very different. We're not going to busy ourselves. We're not going to be producing anything. We're just going to be present for a moment.
Yeah.
And that's that liminal space that it just came to me when you were talking about. We're creating a liminal space. And in that space, there's a chance to listen to ourselves like we don't listen to ourselves during the course of a day.
100%. Right.
And it's such a powerful thing because it does give a moment, in cognitive behavioral therapy today, they call it your wise mind. We can call it God within. I mean, there's so many different ways that we can refer the best in us, our organic wisdom. That's something that you and I have used. Yeah. It is to me what you said, and I tied something together today when you were sharing. It is this organic process that continues to move us in the direction of what we can be. When you showed that little flower.
Yeah.
And that is what then we tap into. And it's such an important source of such a important resource in ourself, such an important source of getting some guidance, as you talked about, that can help us align us and deal with reality. I mean, how many times you and I have talked many times when I'm in a dilemma or you're in a dilemma, what do? And we say, well, let's think about doing this. And then we pause for a while, we come back and talk, and then more gets illuminated in the pause, in the reflecting, in the meditating on it and stuff like that. So this was very important. And this is very much, the heart and soul of what we're really trying to do here with emotional sobriety. So let me invite Tom and Roger to join us and see if they have anything they want to say. But thank you very much for taking the time to join us with this. I'm so glad you're with us.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Me too.
Me too,
Thanks,
Herb. Thanks, man. Thank you. Go ahead, Tom, if you wish.
Well, I'll just say that just one brief thing that I really appreciate that Alan, that you went to the experience of time in your response, because this is just me. This is just I have no particular teaching in this. It's just my own personal experience with that. I have loved the experiences in my life and loved, meaning that they're valuable to me, that show me what it's like to be outside of time. And a couple of those really important ones have been. Are you doing hand puppets, hand shadows? Jesus. This is meditation. This is not funny.
Yeah, right. There's no humor here.
What?
I was in my meditation. I think I left my body, and Tom Rutledge somehow possessed me.
But I just will say, I had a couple of those experiences of being outside of time, or have been in meditation retreats in particular. But the more interesting ones to me have been in accidents. It's one is coming off of being thrown off of a mule several years ago, and the other was a car accident that I was in. And I won't go into the details of that, but in both of those situations, and many people probably who've had have had the similar experiences, I would have never thought at the time these would be pivotal moments in my life that I would return to, especially for the sake of peace. Falling off, coming off, being thrown off a mule, and in a car accident, running into the back of a semi truck. It's like, but in both cases, I had the absolute experience of being outside of time, and they're amazing, and those have been very important to me in terms of just helping me know there's so much more than me and what I think I know or what my senses can tell me. And so tonight, when you've done that meditation, I was feeling some of that. And then Alan, you said it exactly, talked about time, and it felt wonderful. So it's a great reminder for me. And thank you. Including the hand puppet on the shadow puppet.
It was interesting for me. The meditating I do engage in, and a lot of mine is more here and now focused when I'm in motion in the world, but occasionally I do sitting meditation as well. And I'm so used to what you referred to as contemplation,
Right.
rather than meditation, where I'm just practicing awareness, right? Just noticing thoughts arise and subside, noticing body sensations arise, noticing emotional experiences arise and subside. So I really wasn't able to shift into more of an inquiring based kind of perspective. So that's the first thing that I noticed. And the only other thing I wanted to share, because it was still a very relaxing, calming experience for me. And one of my favorite Buddhist, Zen Buddhist writers, her name's Charlotte Joko, Joko Beck. I think it was her book called a book of talks that she gave called Everyday Zen. She didn't view herself as an enlightened being. She didn't view herself as a Buddha, even though she was a very experienced teacher of Zen. But she talks about all the ways that we work hard to try to achieve certain states of mind. And she said something that always sat with me for years. She said, enlightenment is not something we achieve. It's not something achieved through constant striving. You need to have the desire to open, the desire to connect. But she said enlightenment is actually the absence of something, the absence of many things that we fill our minds with and that we fill our consciousness with, and all of our reactivity and all of our conditioning and habits and all of that, which always struck me as a very interesting way of thinking about it. I certainly am not an enlightened being, but when I do feel most calm, I have a sense of what she was talking about with that it's a kind of letting go and an opening to that experience that you described as connection to my life energy, right? Connection to my life force, connection to my body, connection to something in addition to myself or beyond my normal sense of myself. And so I just wanted to share that thought from her. And I wanted to thank you, Herb. I always get so much out of your presentations and the meditations and other things that you do. So thank you, man.
Thank you.
I hear a lot of people criticize the 12 steps that they're old-fashioned. I can understand that criticism. They were written back in 1935. Some people that are agnostic have difficulty with the word God used in the steps. For me, I look at the process that's involved. The forces that the 12 steps generate are so powerful that I think they're ageless. There's this interesting phenomena that happens when you work the steps. They create a charge and then a discharge. The first step, we're powerless. Our life has become unmanageable. It creates this charge. We're in big trouble and we don't know what to do. And then step 2 comes along and it says we have hope. That charge, that existential crisis that we have is resolved. What's happening here is parallel to life. We charge ourselves when we breathe in. When we exhale, we discharge. That's the rhythm of life. And the way I love to think about the 12 steps, it's helping us get connected to the rhythm of life so we can learn how to show up in a good way.